Before Mom and I moved, Dad sat me down for a talk about living in the real world. One thing he told me was that I shouldn't go looking for trouble, especially where the police were involved. Apparently, Shelby's dad never had that talk with her, since she handed me Sir Arthur's leash and marched up to the police officers.
Hello, officers. What's going on?
Shelby! An older white guy wearing an apron that matched his white hair emerged from the deli. Look at what they did to my storefront! The metal security gate that was drawn over one side of the deli had AGHRA spray painted across it in big red letters.
Tell me everything that happened, Christos.
Shelby insisted. The deli's name was Christos, so I deduced he was the owner. Before Christos could tell his story, a woman with a badge on her belt appeared from inside the deli. She groaned upon seeing Shelby.
Leave this to the police, Holmes. We can handle this without your interference. I'm sure you can, Detective Lestrade.
Shelby smiled sweetly at her. It was the first time I had seen her smile, and it looked really unnatural on her.
It's a basic case of vandalism. End of story. Then you shouldn't mind if I take a teensy look around?
She asked the detective, her tone innocent. Shelby then turned toward Christos.
Would you get me a fudgesicle? I'm going to need a lot of sugar for this.
Christos obediently ran into the deli.
Holmes, I told you we've got this.
The detective scolded.
Just like you had the guy who robbed Sal's last month?
Lestrade narrowed her eyes.
That was pure luck, kid.
Ah, the free pizza finally made sense.
Just a quick glance.
Shelby reached into her backpack and took out a measuring tape. She began to measure the graffiti from every angle. She took a few steps back and then paced some more, talking to herself the entire time, until Christos handed her the fudgesicle. Sir Arthur was lying on the ground, his legs stretched out. He knew we were going to be a while. While Shelby studied the graffiti, I tried to think of what AGHRA could stand for. This was what I came up with. Absolutely nothing. It was 5 letters. That wasn't a lot of evidence for a regular person. Shelby approached the detective, who was talking to a fellow officer.
I assume you've been able to deduce that the vandal was Irish, about 6'1", with the rotor cuff injury on their right arm. Most likely a baseball pitcher. I doubt there are a great many people in the area who fit that description.
Is that true? The police officer asked Lestrade. How does she know that?
It's quite simple.
Shelby began to explain.
Generally, people write at eye level, and this graffiti is fairly high up on the gate, which explains the vandal's height. Also, handwriting tends to slope upward. This gradually slopes downward. That leads me to presume that the person's shoulder has limited range. Agra is Irish for my love. The apartment building across the street is known as Little Dublin, since a majority of residents are Irish students attending Columbia. This appears to be an act of love.
Her nose twitched as if she smelled something gross. That's incredible, the officer remarked with his mouth slightly agape. His eyes lit up. You're that girl? I've heard about you. Lestrade quickly waved him off.
New guy.
Lestrade muttered.
Well, it's always a pleasure to watch you work.
Lestrade said in a way that let you know she felt exactly the opposite.
There's no need to blow this out of proportion. Vandalism happens every day. We're not going on a wild goose chase for some guy solely because of your hunches. Seriously, Holmes, what do you expect us to do?
Shelby stood up tall to the detective, although she was still 2 feet shorter than her.
How about your job?
Uh-oh. I might have been new to the neighborhood, but I was pretty sure getting sassy with the police officer was never a wise move for anybody. I took a few steps back, wondering if I would draw suspicion if I ran as far away from Shelby as I could. Although I realized that not only did I have no idea where I was, we were definitely farther away than 10 blocks. First day on my own, and I already broke one of Mom's rules.
I don't have time for this, Holmes.
Lestrade turned toward Christos.
Call if you discover anything missing,
she said before walking away. The deli owner stood there, looking helpless.
Don't worry, Christos.
Shelby crossed her arms defiantly.
I'll get someone to clean up this mess until it's good as new. I have a few people who owe me a favor or two.
The short, stout man patted her on the head, a move that did not make Shelby extremely happy. You take such good care of me. Do you want some more chocolate?
Like if you need me to answer that.
What about your friend? Shelby seemed surprised I was still there.
Oh, Watson? He's diabetic, so he should probably have something else, like a piece of fruit or nuts.
How did... I stopped myself. Of course, Shelby knew I was diabetic. Was there anything she didn't know? I declined Christos' kind offer, since I was still craving pizza. We began walking home, mostly in silence. Shelby enjoyed her candy bar while I kept trying to figure her out. I went with John Watson's foolproof way to make new friends. Ask questions and let the person talk until you find some sort of common ground. It was something that I had perfected over the years. What type of music do you like? I asked.
Classical.
Favorite class?
Science.
Oh yeah? No response. I continued. What kind of things do you do with your friends? Shelby replied by licking her fingers, which were caked in melted chocolate. So much for that foolproof plan. Shelby was a tough code to crack. I slowed down as we approached our brownstone, wondering if I should invite her to our apartment. We didn't have cable or internet set up yet, but I could find a box with our DVD player. Maybe we could watch a movie, or maybe she would want to go to a park and toss a ball around. Something, anything. It wasn't like I thought she and I could be friends, but she was the only person I had met close to my age. My options were limited. I didn't want to spend the afternoon alone, surrounded by boxes. While I was used to the moving, I didn't think I'd ever get used to being in this huge city, especially without Dad. Shelby continued her rapid pace and took the stairs leading to the front door, with Sir Arthur trailing behind her.
Goodbye, Watson.
She didn't even look at me before the front door slammed shut. I found myself standing outside our building, unnerved by how quiet our block was in the middle of the afternoon. Now, what was I supposed to do?